There's a certain kind of person you've probably noticed. They don't post much, they rarely comment, and sometimes they quietly disappear from social media altogether. No announcement, no explanation, just gone. And if you ask them why, they usually don't give a clear answer. They might just say something like, "I don't really feel like it anymore." At first, that sounds simple. Maybe they're busy. Maybe they lost interest. Maybe they just grew out of it. But psychology suggests something deeper is happening. Because stepping away from social media is rarely just about the platform itself. It's often about how someone experiences their own mind, their attention, their emotions, and their sense of self. And if you're someone who finds these patterns interesting, feel free to subscribe. This channel is all about understanding how people actually think and feel. Here are some of the hidden psychological patterns, often found in people who slowly distance themselves from social media. 1. They start noticing subtle changes in their mind. For most people, social media is automatic. You open your phone without thinking. You scroll without deciding. You check notifications without even realizing it. But some people begin to notice something small but important. After a while, their mind doesn't feel the same. It feels more restless, more scattered, more noisy. Not dramatically, just slightly off. Psychologists sometimes describe this as attention residue. When your brain jumps rapidly between pieces of information, it doesn't fully reset between them. A small part of your attention stays behind. Over time, this builds up. And what you're left with is a constant low-level mental noise. People who step away from social media are often the ones who become sensitive to that feeling. They may not know the term, but they recognize the experience. And once you notice it, it becomes harder to ignore. 2. They begin to crave depth instead of constant stimulation. Social media trains the brain in a very specific way. Fast content, quick rewards, endless novelty. It conditions your attention to expect constant stimulation. And for a while, it works. But eventually, some people begin to feel the cost of that speed. They notice that slowing down becomes harder. Reading a book takes more effort. Sitting with a single thought feels uncomfortable. Even silence starts to feel empty. And that's when something shifts. Instead of wanting more stimulation, they begin craving the opposite. More depth, more focus, more presence. Not because it's trendy, not because it's productive, but because it feels calmer. Stepping away from social media, for them, isn't about rejection. It's about protecting their ability to stay with something long enough to actually experience it. 3. They feel the weight of being constantly observed. There's a quiet pressure that comes with social media, not always obvious, but always there. The sense that your life is being seen. Even when you're not posting, you know you could be. And that awareness changes something. You begin to think differently. How does this look? Would this be worth sharing? What would people think? In psychology, this relates to self-monitoring. The more aware you are of being observed, the more you adjust your behavior. And over time, something subtle happens. A gap forms between who you are and how you present yourself. At first, it's small, but over time, it grows. People who step away from social media are often not trying to disappear. They're trying to come back to themselves, to exist without constantly observing themselves from the outside. 4. They become more aware of comparison and its effects. Comparison is built into social media. You don't have to try. It just happens. You see someone's success, someone's relationship, someone's lifestyle, and your brain automatically starts measuring. Where am I compared to that? Am I doing enough? Am I falling behind? Even when you know it's curated, your emotional system still reacts. Psychologists have consistently found that frequent social comparison increases anxiety, self-doubt, and dissatisfaction. People who distance themselves from social media often don't make a dramatic decision. They don't wake up one day and quit. Instead, they notice something simple. I don't feel better after this. And that quiet realization is often enough to change their behavior. 5. They become more protective of their emotional energy. Not everything you consume online is neutral. Some content is stressful. Some is negative. Some is emotionally intense. And your brain doesn't fully distinguish between what you experience directly and what you observe. It still reacts. It reacts to conflict, to fear, to outrage, to tension, even if you're just watching. Over time, that builds something many people don't notice at first: emotional fatigue. A kind of tiredness that doesn't come from doing too much, but from feeling too much. People who step away from social media often aren't trying to disconnect from reality. They're trying to regulate how much emotional input they allow into their system. It's not avoidance, it's calibration. 6. They learn to be comfortable being unseen. This is one of the deeper shifts. Many people are used to sharing their lives, posting updates, receiving reactions, staying visible. It becomes part of how we experience things. But when someone steps away, they start noticing something different. Moments that are not shared. Experiences that exist only for them. At first, it can feel strange, almost like something is missing. But over time, something else replaces that feeling. A quiet sense of grounding. There's less pressure to document everything. Less need to turn moments into content, and more space to just be there. Psychologists often describe this as a shift from external validation to internal stability. And for many people, that shift feels deeply calming. 7. They redefine what connection actually means. One of the biggest assumptions is that stepping away from social media means losing connection. But for many people, the opposite happens. They begin to invest more deeply in fewer relationships. More real conversations, more presence, more attention. Instead of spreading their energy across many interactions, they focus it where it matters. And something changes. The connection feels more real, more grounded, more meaningful. This doesn't mean social media is inherently bad, but it highlights something important. Connection is not about how often you interact. It's about how deeply you connect. And people who step away often begin to rediscover that difference. At the end of the day, stepping away from social media isn't about rejecting the world. It's not about being better, more disciplined, or more self-aware than others. It's often just a quiet response to how someone's mind actually works. Some people feel fine staying connected online. Others feel more balanced when they step back, and both are valid. Because psychology is rarely about one right way to live. It's about noticing what brings your mind closer to clarity, and what slowly pulls it away. If this made you pause and reflect, even for a moment, you can let me know by liking the video, sharing your thoughts below, or subscribing so we can explore more of these ideas together. And sometimes, that awareness begins with something very simple. Not a big decision, not a dramatic change. Just noticing how you feel after you scroll.